In this video, we're going to take a quick look at the plate reader operation. So again, the plate reader is the computer that's in the car. We have cameras connected to it. Our tablet's currently connected to it. And in previous video or another video, we saw the setup for connecting to the plate reader hotspot. And once we've connected to it, we get the LPR proxy connected. The screen that we're looking at here, we've actually done a plate read, and that plate read has come back and it shows us some indication of the data as well as what it is, that whether it's valid and so on and so forth. It's very similar to the search interface that we see when we're doing manual searches. The idea here again is that this is an automated system. So as we're driving around, it's actually doing its job, and it's only going to notify us when it feels that we need to be aware of the fact that a vehicle needs a violation or needs to be checked on for some reason. So just looking at the screen, we can see again LPR proxy connected. Here you can see that the dot has gone yellow, means that I'm currently working from cached information. You may have seen that it was green. This may not be a rock solid connection. It's reliant on the 3G and LTE network, where the antenna is situated, all kinds of different things. Most part, when you're out driving around, you're gonna have a good connection. In this case, I'm working in the lab, so my connection isn't the greatest. I can check on the connection as we saw in another video. We can check and see. It still says that it's fair. It would be great if this said it was a good connection, right, or a best connection. If we come back to this, we're more interested in what's being displayed on the screen anyway, so let's just take a run through things. As with the manual search, we can select a parking group, or we can select a zone, or we can just say that we're simply doing any parking group or any zone, and then we go around validating, and it's just checking for, does this car have valid parking on this at this location? If we wanted to, if we were doing a particular lot or a group of lots, it's possible for us to change that information. Or if we were patrolling a particular zone, again, we can change the zone information. The next thing is the image. So it's possible for us to click on that image, and you can see again working in the lab these other plates, but essentially we get a context image, and the camera system will draw out what it saw as the plate and make it the thumbnail. So we see the thumbnail here. We note that as well, the system has some details to the right of that. So it's a 90% confidence read. So basically the system has said, I read this plate, I'm 90% confident that the information is correct. In the case of, if we recall in the system settings, there was a no read result. The no read result, same idea. If it's a vanity plate, it sends back details. Generally, it's not going to be a 90% if it's a vanity plate, but it would come back with a value that'll say, I think this is to 50%, my confidence, so on and so forth. So we'd be able to set limits or filter that. Right above the confidence level is what it read as the plate. So again, BNMP-Canada, Ontario. So in this case, we get the province and the country information on this particular camera type. Not all cameras return all of this information. Some cameras only will return plate details and not provincial and country information. The orange arrow points to the right, means it was read on the passenger side. If the arrow were to be pointing on the left, and I believe it shows to the left of the image, that means that the plate was read on the driver's side. Now, the information again gets displayed in this box so that we could do a normal search. So in the case of, let's say this plate wasn't read correctly, it would be possible for me to change this. So say this was an 8 or this was a B. It's possible for us to change that information, and if we click on the button with the dots, it gives us menu options. We can say that we wish to search only, or we wish to search and update. In the case of search only, it goes through the exact same functionality, but now it's going to pass through the plate BNMP4B6 and do a search for that plate. If I do search and update, what happens is it tells the system that I have changed this plate to 4B6. And it wants to then say, if I ever do read BNMP486 Canada, Ontario, it should be BNMP4B6. So we only want to do that when we're actually trying to teach the system to learn a plate. So some things that might get confused are H's and N's, B's and 8's, 3's and B's. And if the system's having trouble with those characters or having trouble with a particular plate, it's possible for us to teach it to say, if you read this, this is what you should have read. And thereafter, then when it's reading the plates, it'll actually do that conversion for us. So in this case, we're not going to bother clicking on that. To the right of that is the off and on button. When it's off, it's not reading plates. I could drive around, it's never going to read a plate. I want this to be green when I'm driving around. And now when I'm driving around now, it's going to notify me as it's finding plates that need to be ticketed, or when it's chalking those. In the case of the search interface, if we click on these records, it gives us more details. So again, same thing. I can go into the violation entry, same idea as what we see on manual search. We have the red X showing that it doesn't have valid parking, but it is a vehicle in the database which is active. And again, it's possible for us to pull up details. You'll notice that as I interacted with this interface, the green button went red, and that's by design. Obviously, if I'm interacting with the system, I don't want another plate to be coming in red. So we always have to be checking that button. Has it gone back to don't read, in which case it shows as red. We want it green when we're driving around doing those validations. Below at the bottom here, we have the actual recent LPR results. So we can see that we've read in 10 records, and we can see that it has an orange icon on the left-hand side. An orange icon denotes that this particular plate was read and that it was actually chalked. So that means a chalk record was created for this plate. So if we bring it up again, we can see here, by just tapping on it, I'm able to bring up that same record that we were just looking at. And I'm only doing that for to show that it's possible for me to see that this was chalked 6 minutes ago, 7 meters from this location. The location details and the time it was chalked are being tracked so that they're available to other patrol staff. But the idea being that if I came back in an hour and this plate is still there, that would mean that, likely I need to give it a violation because, again, it didn't have valid parking and it was chalked. So based on the grace period that we may have set on the lot or even on the handheld itself, it's possible that this person can be parked there for 20 minutes without parking, but that they would need to purchase parking because the next time I come by, the system sees that plate. It's going to give me a notification to tell me, hey, you need to give this guy a ticket. Now, if we scroll down and see if there's any other plates, so we see here one's green, this ADMN record, and that reason that it's green is, and we get that bing, is the reason is that it has a valid permit. So this has a valid permit in the designated areas. And again, we can see, if we look up at the top here, we can see that the orange arrow, that ADMN, was actually red on the driver's side. And again, because I'm interacting with the screen, the button turned off. Okay, so took a brief pause there just to allow some of these reads to pass that threshold where now they're going to be eligible for a violation entry. At the same time, brought up a record here where we can see that the system has done a lookup for us. So in this case, it read AOMN when it should have read ADMN. But in the past, we had actually recorded the fact that AOMN doesn't exist in the system and that it should have been read as ADMN. So you can see when we were looking at it previously, it had a confidence level of 90. In this case, it was a confidence level of 74. So a bunch of different factors at play here. But essentially what the system has done is the system has looked at this AOMN record, which was manually updated in the past to be ADMN, based on the confidence level, based on some other factors, has said, no, you know what, I've read this plate, but I know that I should be reporting ADMN. And so what happens is on the search output line, we can see that ADMN 485 has been returned. So it's important in this case then for us to, not here, but in the past to have updated that to ADMN and then selected search and update. And that pushes that information to the system, which then the system is able to take the different parameters, apply a filter, and then based on that filter, the next time that it reads that plate, it would show up with the correct information. Now, as well, let's just close that out. We can see here BNMP. So BNMP was another plate that we had looked at. This plate now has been parked at this location for 28 minutes. We get that audible notification that this plate should be ticketed. So now if we wanted to, we can go ahead and issue a violation on this vehicle. And when we do that, what's really neat here is that the system will actually bring in the pictures that are associated with this plate. So we can see that we get the actual thumbnail image as well as the context image. And I've run it through a couple times, which is why the system is tracking that. But if we take a look here, we can see that this picture and this picture would have been different pictures that would have been recorded at the time that the plate was read. So I can't read the actual date that's on here, but you can see 15 at the end And if I close that and open the other one, you can see it's 16 at the end. So again, a different time frame. But again, so the plate was read at 2 different times. So we had the chalking image, we had the violation image, and then we also have the context image. So it's not necessary now for us to take another image for this violation, but if we wanted to, certainly we can click on the camera icon and add another image to this violation. So the system's not only doing the chalking and all of that activity, but it's also tracking all of the images in the background for us for these violations. So again, on the left-hand side, we see the red, which denotes the fact that we should give this vehicle a violation. Green means it's a user valid parking. Orange means that the plate was chalked, and there's another icon, another indicator that shows up, which would be blue. And in the case of blue, it means that the vehicle or the plate has valid parking, but in a different parking group or zone than what we're currently patrolling. So in this case, we're saying any parking group or any zone. So we would never see blue. But if we wanted to, if we were to say, okay, we're going to, descend into Centrum or daycare as the zone and do our enforcement for those particular zones in a given lot, it's possible that we would see a plate show up with a blue indicator indicating that that particular vehicle is in the wrong spot, but they do have a valid permit. And then we'd be able to do our own investigation based on those, based on that information. So this is the overview of the plate reader system. You see, it's very efficient as far as doing a lot of the automated tasks. We're not having to type plates in. We're not having to chalk. Even for things like misuse of permit, where we might have a husband and wife who come to a lot, park their vehicles at different ends of the lot, thinking that they're going to get away with something. This system is smart enough to see that plate and know that, oh, that plate has a permit, but when it sees another plate, knows that the second plate shouldn't be on that same permit, and will notify us that there's a misuse of plate. So again, another feature of the automation that's just fantastic. And that's it. That's the plate reader. Thanks for watching.